going. All right. So I'd love to introduce Manpreet. Manpreet has been, for more than 15 years, has partnered with clients to serve as a business coach when they're looking to start or grow their businesses, move to the next rung of the corporate ladder, or wanting to have it all. With organizations, Manpreet works with the senior management and executive leadership teams to redefine human resources strategies and programs, including development of human resources practices to diversity initiatives. Manpreet is a well-known consultant and coach whose message is to support pan-culturalism and create a business world that maximizes skill by mending the disconnect society has with diversity in business. Manpreet's mission in life is to support the business world being reflective of the society they are working in, whereas the leadership teams and successful entrepreneurs reflect the demographics of the communities they serve. Clients will experience improvements in revenue, success mindset, and having it all with a sense of balance. So with that, Manpreet, I would like to pass the presentation over to you. And I'm so excited to hear everything you have to share with us on confidence.
Well, thank you so much. And thanks for hosting today as well. So what I'm going to do is, we got a little bit of introduction, but I'll go over the agenda and what we'll be talking about today. I'm going to just share my screen so you can see the presentation. And that should work. Okay, so you should be able to see the presentation now. Is that working for everyone? Okay, perfect. So today we'll go over a little bit of my story and how confidence has worked into my career and what that looks like. Because sometimes there's words of wisdom when we're listening to someone else's story. We might pick up little tidbits here and there. Then looking at communicating confidently, looking at how to be confident in sales, and also how many of you have heard of imposter syndrome? Yeah, so we'll be looking at imposter syndrome and what that looks like. What possible solutions and action items could be. And I will lead you through a quick meditation, and we'll talk about, and then I'll talk a little bit about a healing circle. So just my story. Thanks for the introduction there. I mean, that was always when you're listening to your own introduction, again, this is where the imposter syndrome sometimes comes in, and you're like, oh, is that really me? So one of the things with myself, my journey with confidence has been an interesting one. I started, when I was 5 years old, I was diagnosed with the disease, which made me be on steroids and made me gain about 30 pounds away in 1 month. And so all of a sudden I went from this slim girl to, I used to call myself a Cabbage Patch Kid. And that really impacts your self-esteem, your confidence, and everything else, and especially when you're 5 years old and you go to school. And so in grade 9, I just said to my dad, I'm like, I really want to go to modeling school because I feel like that's going to really help with my confidence. Just learning to walk and just be and just kind of really owning my body. So from a really early age, I kind of knew that confidence was one of those things I'm going to have to master in this lifetime. And so I went to modeling school. I was overweight according to modeling standards, but I still went in. And I remember being at the shoot. We did a fashion show. And I couldn't fit into a lot of the clothes that were on the rack. And I just remember how I felt at that moment. And it was just one of those things. And I was like, well, there's nothing to blame about it. But right that moment, I always felt like an outsider. It was one of those things that I felt like it was going to impact me for the rest of my life. And it has up to a point. And then, so fast forward, about a year later, I started playing a lot of sports, which really helped me to feel better about myself, my body, but also looking at what else I could achieve. I was never good at sports. I learned how to skate in grade 11, and I was playing ice hockey. I was learning to skate at the same time I played ice hockey. So a lot of persistence there. But and there's always had to be some level of confidence, but it wasn't in the traditional way how you see confidence generally. You'll see those people walking around with all this, just the way they walk and they carry themselves. So my confidence really came in. I would keep trying things and kept pushing forward on everything, regardless of if I was going to be successful or not. And that's always been an added, it's been one of my key features of who I am at the core, and why I have been able to get to where I am is because of the fact that I will continue to do things even though it doesn't make sense or I'm not able to. I will, and I have the wherewithal within myself to be like, I can push through this. And so over the years, I mean, I've been fortunate. I've had a lot of opportunity to, enjoy a lot of different types of successes, quote unquote. But one of the things is every time I would achieve a new height, a part of me would be, the self-doubt would set in, but it would be like, oh, really? Did I really do a good job on this? It'd always be that questioning. It was almost never good enough in some ways. And then anything that would be, any type of recognition I would get, any kind of gratitude or anything else along those lines, I didn't feel like I deserved it. And it was really an issue with like receiving that feedback as well. And then, and fast forward, I worked in this at UBC in the senior leadership position, and I was doing the job of 3 people, but I always felt like it was never good enough, where I started to feel burnt out and started to go into depression, but that caused a lot of my self-doubt. So really, as I've been revisiting my past and looking at where the key points were, I realized when I'm not feeling healthy is when the self-doubt comes in. Or if I'm not feeling, something feels like there's imbalanced in my body, the self-doubt comes in. I'm not saying that that's always the case, but it was one of the things I noticed within myself. When there was a lot of stress, that's when my confidence would suffer. And so there was a moment where I was sitting. So success to me used to be achievements. So every year at my birthday, I would look at what work-related achievements would I have, what projects did I complete, how many people did I contribute to, what difference in the world I made, how much revenue did I bring in, all these things. And the year I decided to leave UBC, I took a year off, and I was sitting there on my birthday. I was in Fiji at a business seminar, and I just remember sitting there thinking, I'm like, oh my God, I haven't had any successes this year, and I just felt like crap about myself. And I was one of those things, I was like, I've wasted a year. And it's like how much my confidence, my self-esteem was tied into what achievements I had. And whereas I identified everything as my worth according to what my achievements were and what my work was. And so it really struck a chord as I was sitting there, and I was like, well, how could I not have had achievements? What did I do this year? And I started writing down, I started redefining success for myself. I started writing down success being better relationships. I've had more fun. I feel relaxed. My body doesn't hurt. I'm able to sleep now. I don't clench my jaw at night. And I was like, oh, success is really, it can be completely different. I mean, it's about how I show up in the world. And it's not about what I tick box off. It's about who I am at the core. And so redefining the success really helped me to come to a place of the fact that I felt good within myself of who I was, and I accepted who I am in that moment and I had become. And so I would really invite you to also ask yourself, what does success mean to you? And how do you feel about yourself if you didn't have external achievements? What does that look like? What would make you feel that you are the best version of yourself? And these are kind of really key questions to reflect upon. And so now today, it's actually really interesting because I'm still, growing up, I've always been overweight because of this disease or whatever. But it's been interesting because I've always been very confident in the way I present myself. There's my moments, obviously. As with everyone, there's always moments when you don't feel confident. But, for the most part, I'm confident about the way I walk. And I know what I deserve, what I'm worth. I will ask for what I want. But it really comes down to all of these lessons throughout the years really made a huge difference in allowing me to truly feel a confidence at a deep level within myself. And that confidence really allows me to take action. I'm able to, anytime, I see that there's an obstacle in the way, I'm always looking for ways to overcome it. And that comes from a place of confidence. So it's really asking yourself too, what does confidence mean to you? What does that word look like? Where did you get that definition from? And what could be a different definition of confidence that would help you? So next we'll talk about communicating confidently. I'm going to overstate the word confidently, I guess, through this presentation. So one of the things, it's about communication and really feeling empowered after you leave a conversation. Is about how to hold your own power in difficult conversations, and how to really say what you want in a constructive manner so that there's always an outcome that's mutually beneficial for both individuals. For instance, where sometimes there'll be, let's just say, we'll take the work, with a client. If you had the scenario of a client wasn't paying on time, or they've been delayed with their payments, and you want to, and that they might be a single mom, they're struggling financially, they're at the start of their business, but the thing is, you have bills to pay as well. And so, how would you approach that conversation? And so one of the things that I do with communication, and what we really look at with communication, is always be clear, especially when it comes to these difficult types of conversations, is really look at what do you want the outcome to be? And how do you want to feel leaving the conversation? And how do you want the other person to feel leaving the conversation? And what that really does is setting those intentions for the conversation itself. It really allows you to choose your words carefully. It allows you to function, to really see them as a person instead of the issue, and really see that there might be multiple layers of what's going on, and that this is just the top portion of it. And it really allows you to also come from a place of compassion, but also a place of empowerment, that you'll get a desired outcome that you would be happy to have. And so it's really good to set your intention of what's the worst case, what's the desired state, and what's the least minimum state that you'd settle for. And this really will allow you to come to the conversation in a place of knowing what's right for you, and knowing what's right for the situation, and knowing that the outcome will be better than you ever could have imagined or asked for. And so how do you really say what you really want is also being clear with what you want. A lot of the times, recently, it comes a lot into businesses when people ask, well, what do you do? How can you help people? Who's your ideal client? Well, if you haven't defined that, it's really hard to answer that question. So that's why it's always, a lot of the times we hear these conversations in business about always know your ideal client. But why do you need to know your ideal client? So when people ask you, you can tell them exactly what it is that you are looking for, what type of person you want to work with, and how can you serve that person. And so that's really, it really comes to, so gaining clarity on what type of conversations you want to have, gaining clarity on what you want, and also setting intentions for conversations that you feel uneasy about, are really allow you to be able to communicate from a place of centeredness and grounding. And I love this quote. Oops, and my title thing showed up. But to succeed, you have to believe in something with such a passion that it becomes reality. And that's with everything that you do with communication, but everything you do with sales as well. You have to just really believe in the passion and believe in what the outcome is going to be, so that it will become reality. And I mean, we hear a lot about law of attraction, but this is where it kind of put it in practice as well. And so with sales, it's the same way. A lot of, I can't remember the stat off the top of my head, but a lot of women are always hesitant to do business more based on relationships, but they're hesitant to ask for business. It's a general, and this is very generalizing. It's a trait because women over the generations haven't really been taught to ask for what they want. And this is where a lot of the cultural biases might come in. That doesn't necessarily mean everyone's like that, but this is generalizing. So in order to be successful in sales, it's important, again, to have those type of conversations where you're looking at building a relationship with the individual. And when you're looking at building a relationship with someone, you'll approach that call or ask with a lot more of more self-esteem, and you'll feel that inner knowingness that you have something to offer. And that's what confidence really is about. It's about knowing what you have to offer. So, and it's really looking at how can you be of service, which has the best outcome for both parties. And that's what really sales is about, and how to have the sales conversation in a confident way, because there's no attachment there then. When you're feeling confident in yourself and you know that you add value to someone's life, you're not going to feel hesitant to ask, to be like, I can provide this for you, and please, and in lieu, and for as a reimbursement, you will ask for payment. Because the payment is just really, you're honoring your worth, your value, and what you're bringing to the table. And there's an exchange. If we go back to historical times, legally, everything is an exchange. There always has to be an exchange of energies for something to be as a contract. And so even with sales, you are providing a service, they're providing a payment, so there's an exchange, and it's just a contract. And so this is, for centuries and centuries, as we've been practicing this. So it's not something new. But so as soon as we take away all this pressure, but you really step into how am I being of service and what's the best outcome for both parties, it takes away any uncertainty that there might be when selling or when asking for a sale. And so next we're going to just go to imposter syndrome. This is always a fun one. Imposter syndrome, I think it was one of the stats I saw, like 70% of women suffer from imposter syndrome. And what is imposter syndrome? It's when you've gotten somewhere and you feel like you faked it till you made it, and you don't know if you really should be there. And you're questioning if you actually have the qualifications or the background or the skills to be there. And maybe they made a mistake. Maybe they don't realize that maybe they think that you know what you're doing, but maybe you're a fraud this whole time. Well, here, I'm telling you that that's not true. There's a reason why you are where you got to. There's a reason why you have been chosen for the roles that you've been chosen for. There's a reason why people will do business for you. And there's a reason why you were chosen as someone's partner. Really, they see the value in you, and it's just about time you need to see it in yourself. And that's where confidence comes in as well. Because if we are impacted by imposter syndrome, it will make us question every relationship, every transaction, everything in our life, because we think that maybe we're not deserving of it. And newsflash, you are deserving of it. There's a reason why you were put here on this earth. There's a reason why you are given things that you're given, because you're deserving, you're worthy of it, and you need to have it. It's your right to have it. So the imposter syndrome is one of those nagging little things in the back of your mind, and little monsters that can kind of come up at any time and make you question if you really have the skills or talents to do what you're doing. And the answer usually is yes, you do, unless you're totally off the ball. But very rarely is that the case, because most of the times, everywhere we end up, there's a reason why we're there. And we're there to learn, we're there to contribute, and we're there to grow. And if we look at every opportunity from that perspective, we know that we're meant to be everywhere we're supposed to be. So it kind of eliminates the imposter aspect itself. And so how can you be more confident? And how do you overcome your mind's chatter? So some of the things, I'm just going to give a few quick techniques here. So being more confident is actually writing down the reasons why you're so awesome, and actually making a list. You've probably heard this before, but if you make that list and put it in 4 different spaces, your brain will automatically start to remember it and act like it all the time. So that's why it's super important to make the list of why you're so awesome, and why people should hire you, and why you deserve everything that you have. And so anything that you've been feeling like you feel lack of, this is why you make this list, because you need to start, your body needs to really feel why you are awesome. And that's what it comes down to. It's just like that feeling and tapping into the confidence. All of us have that confidence within ourselves. but it's really about connecting into that and feeling it on a regular basis. And how do you overcome your mind's chatter? I actually just take a notebook, and every time I feel like any thoughts that are like conflicting with how I want to feel, I actually just write them down. I give them a voice, but once they're written down, it's out of my head, and I don't focus it on anymore. And that's actually just a simple technique, because after a while, if I don't even want to write it anymore, so then my brain's like, oh, I don't want to write that, so I stop thinking it. So it's just tricking your brain constantly of what you want to think on, what you want to focus on. So what I'll do is we'll connect into a quick meditation, just a couple minutes, and we're going to connect in with your confident and best self. So I'll get you to close your eyes and feel your heart beating. Feel the presence of yourself within your body. And notice that there's a light coming down through your head, connecting you to the earth, and you feel completely grounded. And just imagine yourself walking through a forest. You feel the leaves, you feel the wind, you feel the sunshine, and you're just letting go of all that's no longer serving you as you're walking through this forest. And you come to an opening, and you see your best, most confident self. Just notice how you feel. Notice what she looks like, what she feels like. And ask her what she believes about herself. And ask her, what do you need to let go of? What do you need to call in? Who do you need to be in order to fully align with her all the time? And just thank her, and just know and merge with her and know she's a part of you. She always has been a part of you. Just feel her presence within yourself. And as you walk back through the forest, you have a new level of alignment with your true self, like you've never had before. And when you're ready, just open your eyes. So that was a really quick meditation, and just to kind of connect, you can always connect back into that part of yourself, but it's just to show you that that confident best self is always a part of you, and always has been a part of you. And with that, before we open up for questions, I'm doing a special healing circle on finding your purpose. It's an online virtual circle on Sunday. If anyone's interested, the link is there. With that, we'll just open for questions. If anyone has any questions or is looking at questions about confidence or whatever else that might be. If you'd like, we can unmute you as well, if that's easier.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and unmute everyone.
Okay. I'm going to stop the share here.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions?
I just wanted to say something.
Sure.
Hi, Manfred. Thank you very much. The one thing that really resonated with me tonight, and I only just came upon the Women in Biz Network newsletter, like when it mentioned the thing tonight, I didn't know about it ahead of time, and I looked at the time, I looked at my calendar, I was like, oh yeah, I can sit in on that. Like, it's very spontaneous, and I'm happy.
That's awesome.
I very rarely have time to sit in on these things, but what really struck a chord with me was when you mentioned, normally when you're feeling down, or if there's something not quite right with you in yourself, that's when these, the more limiting beliefs or the negative self-talk, the lack of confidence, that really, and then the reason I came to this tonight was because I had just recently in the past week been having self-doubt and these feelings, which I know my mind is a very creative and active entity.
Yeah.
I don't always have to listen, but I haven't been feeling 100%. I haven't been feeling up. I've been feeling down. I don't think it's depression. I'm actually going through grief. I've lost 3 people close to me in the past 3 months. But it has now sort of affected my business to a degree where I was busy up until, I guess, 10 days ago. And since those 10 days, I've not hustled. I've not worked on much for my business at all. I did my bookkeeping today, but I just want to take naps. And I do think it's grief, but at the same time, I'm having these questions go on in my head, like big doubts about the business. Like no one's emailing me looking for work help with their business. Like I'm not getting people coming to me. So I'm kind of like all of a sudden questioning, but I think it's just because I'm already at a lower level energy wise, that's affecting my confidence. So,
yeah. So, I mean, and you're so aware already, but a lot of the times I know for myself when my vibration's a little bit lower because I'm not feeling well. And I went through grief as well. And I noticed the same thing. But it was interesting when I was going through the grief, when I would work out or I would eat certain types of foods and increase my vibration, I would start attracting clients, regardless of if I was even feeling the emotional, like wanting to sleep all the time or not engaged. And I really had to reconnect in with my why. And I had to really connect in with why was I doing the business in the first place?
Right.
Why was it important for me to contribute to the world? And those people for me, I had lost my brother, but I had to be like, what would he want? What would he tell me right now if he was here to talk to me about this?
Right.
And they wouldn't, I'm pretty sure your loved ones wouldn't want you to not live your passion or not live your purpose and sleep and not focus on yourself.
Right. Yeah.
So it's really reconnecting with your why, but really, and reconnect with how to elevate your vibration again.
Okay, great. Thanks. That's helpful.
Thanks.
Thank you, Lisa, for sharing that.
Yeah.
I actually have a couple questions, Manpreet. So you're mentioning about writing lists of all the things that you're awesome at or the reasons you're awesome and placing it in 4 different spaces. Can you say more about the spaces that you would actually place that?
So it's actually a goal setting exercise. I can't remember who did the research, to be honest, but if you it doesn't matter if you put it in your closet door or behind your bedroom door, put it on your bathroom, put it in your car somewhere. But what happens is your brain will start to be like, sees a note thing and right away it remembers what's on that list. Oh. So it's a trigger for your brain. So it's just your brain needs to see it and out of the peripheral of your eye at some point. And it will trigger it to be like, oh yeah, that's what that list says.
Oh, that's interesting. So it's just like the symbol of it.
Yeah.
It sounds like, okay, so you don't have to read it in detail every time.
No, not every time. Because even if you so what I do sometimes I'll just read it really quickly.
Okay.
And then I'm like, I miss words or whatever, but it re-engages my brain. Oh yeah, that's me. Yeah. It's just a remembrance.
Fantastic. Well, before I ask my next question, I'll open it up to see if anyone else has any more questions that have come up. Or as you're thinking, maybe I'll ask my next one. Oh, we've got a note from Anne. Thanks, Manpreet. I really like the goal setting methods. Yes, me too. Me too. That keeps me on track for sure.
Yes.
I really liked what you said about in the sales process, focusing on the best outcome for both parties. I think a lot of us lose sight of that, or we don't stay balanced with that in mind. And I'm curious what your thought is on kind of quieting the concerns around scarcity versus abundance. I think I'm very inclined to think in terms of scarcity, and I'm trying to think abundance, but it's just not a natural setting for me. And I'm wondering what your thoughts are on that.
So it's not a natural setting for a lot of people. Hence why the law of attraction is they've done really well. And Bob Proctor has done really well. And I mean, it's abundance. We also live in a time where we're heading into, there's a lot of fear in society, in media, and things like that. And somehow our brain starts to pick up on that stuff. It's like, oh, the economy might go into depression, or this might happen. But one of the things Tony Robbins says, and it's always one of the things that reminds me when I go back to, when I go to scarcity, he's like, when winter comes, that's when you should go. You'd be the most, totally messed up the quote. Success comes in winter. So winter is when there's like fear, there's like scarcity around the world. But that's usually the most successful companies. That's when they build their companies.
Interesting.
And so it's a lot of the times so just for me, I just remembering that right before a call I actually have to, like, I've had a huge issue with scarcity mindset. So I come from a Punjabi background. My dad came with like $7, so we were very poor. He was very poor, and I've kind of took that over. So I really had to dive into what the beliefs that I took on from my dad, what is the beliefs that I took on from my mom, and right before each day, I have to actually step into abundance and expansiveness, and just to reprogram myself in that. And so I really had to take stock of, okay, what are the belief systems that are actually mine? What are the belief systems that I just took on from my parents? Like, my mom was making fun of me the other day. She's like, oh, you spend money like your grandma. And she's like, you get money and you spend it right away. And my grandma does do that because it wasn't actually never her money. And it was actually, she used to take money from the community, and they would always help one female. So the only time she ever had money was when other people gave it to her, but she'd always have to spend it because that was a part of the contract. And I've just taken that on as like, every time money comes to me, I just spend it. And I was like, oh, that's not a good pattern, right? There's like recognizing what that pattern is. And so that's where, if you recognize where those belief systems are coming from and when you get triggered into scarcity, and if you can kind of, is it a certain type of person that triggers you into scarcity? What's a mindset that you might have around, do you believe that your clients have money to pay you? Because we never actually know what people's financial situations are.
That's so true. We have zero insight into that, really. It's something that we often hold very close to ourselves and don't reveal anything about. So for me to assume I have any inclination towards what their situation is pretty arrogant on my part.
I know. It was like last week, it kind of, these lessons get completely thrown at my face, but I met this man. He's a totally just jeans, dressed down, whatever. He is worth a couple $1 billion, and he looks like one of my, like someone I would be just sitting next to in a coffee shop. And he works at a coffee shops all the time.
Wow, that's amazing.
Looking at him, would have never known he's worth a couple $1 billion.
Wow.
And then at that point, I was like, that is very true. You never know what people's financial situations are. Like, we can't judge a book by its cover.
Not at all. And what a great reminder of that. Wow. Yeah. Thank you for the insight on the scarcity versus abundance thing. When you were talking about your parents, I think that's driving a lot of this mindset for me. My parents grew up very poor, and I think that carried over into my mindset for sure. So
there's some really good books on healing your money story that I can, I can't remember the names off the top of my head, but I can email you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much. Any more questions that Manpreet can answer for us today? Everybody's unmuted, so feel free just to speak out or use the chat. All right. Well, if something comes to mind, please interrupt me. But I'm going to talk a few more minutes about Women in Biz Network. So first of all, I just want to thank you, Manpreet, for all of the wonderful insight that you've shared with us today. I found this session to be hugely valuable. And thank you, everybody, for attending this evening, this afternoon, depending on what time zone you're in, and participating in this wonderful class with us. So I just wanted to launch into a few things about Women in Biz Network and where we're at right now. So as I mentioned at the top of this webinar, we are extending a 25% off offer on Women in Biz Network memberships, and you have until Friday to use this offer, which is coupon code CONFIDENCE. And I will include the link and the coupon code in the chat right there. And Women in Biz Network, just a bit of background about us. We are one of Canada's fastest growing national organizations dedicated to professional and entrepreneurial development. We empower our community by providing several things, one of which online live mentoring classes supporting topics that matter to you, just like today's. They're easily outlined for you to watch on our member portal as well. So like I was mentioning before, this class is being recorded and will be offered on the portal for access later on. Additional offerings include career support, such as kick-ass career coaching, LinkedIn badassery, resume, kick-assery, personal brand makeover package, and all of these programs come with a Women in Biz Network membership, as well as time with the founder of Women in Biz Network, Lee Mitchell. And if you're curious about our Thriving Careers programs, I am including the link in the chat. And additionally, we include the Thrive Mentor Mastermind. Of course, you get a member-only website with member editorial, business directory, templates, tools, videos, and action plans for success. We also offer a 6-month mentor matching program, discounts to events and a variety of lifestyle business services, great opportunities to market yourself, such as submitting a variety of content to our websites, including advice, events, job postings, testimonials, and more. And you can also apply for our group benefits package health plan. So if you are interested in joining our wonderful, growing, thriving network, I really encourage you to do so. 25% off. It's a hugely generous offer using discount code CONFIDENCE, because that's what it's all about. So if there were any more questions, feel free to ask them in the next 2 minutes before we wrap up. And thank you, everybody, for attending. Thank you again, Manpreet, for all the wonderful wisdom you shared with us tonight. Do you have any parting words of encouragement or wisdom that you'd like to share?
Well, I think just the quote that I always love is power is in the mind. So whatever you think is going to be right. So it's really coming back into what you think about yourself and what you think about situations. Really, that's where you're going to be right. So that's it.
Beautiful.
Thank you for hosting, though.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you so much. And what a wonderful quote to end this meeting with. And thank you so very much. And thank you, everybody, for joining us this evening and afternoon. I keep forgetting about the time zone. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.